Okay, folks, next we're going to do a PCB, or a computer board. On the website, it's called PCB. Now, a couple of things about the computer board. There's a lot of stuff going on this computer board internally that I still don't understand. The computer board basically controls everything. Now our wires come off the computer board, and obviously I know where every single wire goes off the computer board. For you guys, take a picture, look at this video, because you're going to see where these wires come off. This is your power cord white. This brown wire, as we saw before in taking the boiler out, this goes to the back of the thermo. These two wires are for the heater. This blue and blue get tied together. This goes to our heater tab. This white wire goes to the front of the thermo. So this wire on one side is the front of the thermo. This brown wire is the other side of the thermo. Then we have this red wire is for our electro valve. I don't want to show off and tell you what every single wire is for. And then the black wires at the bottom, these provide voltage to the pump. It provides voltage to the electro valve. And one wire comes off your on-off switch, basically to power the computer board. Now, I've gone over and over and over a zillion times. Make sure that you provide the right electric to the machine. If the machine is being shared on a circuit, that's no good. It's robbing the steamer of power. If you're using the wrong extension cord, that's no good. Again, I constantly have people saying that the end of their power cord, and I really wish I would have saved one, or a guy would have sent me one. When you take your power cord and you plug it into an extension cord and it melts and you can't get the plug out of your extension cord, not the machine's fault. The machine's struggling for power. It's a bad extension cord. The machine is sharing power on the circuit, or it's just not getting enough power from something. It's not a warranty type of thing. We don't warranty power cords because of this, and it's not necessary to replace the power cord. You can just snip the power cord and get a Home Depot plug and wire it up that way. But digressing, back to the computer board. If any of these wires get burnt on the computer board, or if the computer board gets burned itself, I generally will not warranty it, because it's not a defective part. It's not defective, it's burnt because it wasn't getting enough electricity. Sorry to say, but if the computer board burns, if one of these wires burn, you're going to have to take the wire off. And this white wire is common because this is coming from your power cord white. If this wire had happened to burn, and this is the way we get the wires off the board. We got to wiggle them. We don't want to just yank it, because we never want to pull the tab out of the board. If this wire was burnt, we would cut it wherever it was burnt, and we have new clean wire. We would cut it an inch and a half. We always have extra wire to play with. You can always cut one of these zip ties and pull a little bit more wire to gain access to go back to your computer board. So this wire can always be repaired, and you would crimp a new female connector on here. A lot of times this gets hot, it burns the wire first, then that heat transfers back to the computer board and it burns the computer board. And the most common thing is the machine has no power. So you'll turn it on, you won't get the alarm, you won't get the lights to come on, the machine will have no power. Then if I ask you to check the computer board and you see either this wire is charcoal at this point, or this corner of the board is charcoal, then we have no choice but to replace the computer board. So we would do a wire for wire swap. Our computer boards have been the same for probably now about 6 or 7 years on all the machines. So all the machines, the 100, the 125, and the 155 all use the same computer board. And they're all wired, other than the 155, which is 240 volts. We still use the same computer board on the 155, which I think is genius from my manufacturer. But we wire it the same on the 100 and the 125. This happens to be a 100 machine. If we got to get the board out, generally what he'll do is there's going to be 1 or 2 zip ties that are zip tied to this plastic L bracket that holds the computer board in place. And this is almost impossible to do with the body intact. So you want to snip that wire tie, and there might be one on the bottom. I don't see one here. And then the computer board will slide. And again, if we need access, we can move the pump a little bit out of the way, and we can slide the computer board out. So now we slide the computer board out, and in this way, we have much more room to work on all the wires. So our 3 black wires at the bottom, it's not critical how these 3 black wires get connected back. You do want to take note and see this is a double, this is a single, one of these goes to the heater, one of these comes off the on-off switch, and one of these is for your pump and your electro valve. Again, this one goes back to the top, that's your white wire. This multi-pin connector, and we don't want to try and yank these, there's a little tab here. You got to release that tab, and you still don't want to pull from the wires because we don't want to pull these out. You want to wiggle it out. You want to wiggle it out so it comes out that way. This is for your LEDs at the front. You want to make sure this is at the bottom with the board being vertical. This will fit in this one, but if we put it in this one, we're not going to get the alarm. So if we put this LED wire in the top, you're going to turn the machine on, it'll operate, but you won't get lights. So the LED connector needs to always be at the bottom. Same thing with this multi-pin connector here. We want to bend the tab, but we have enough access to get our hands in here, and we can release that. So we have, and these are 2 different sizes, so you can't make a mistake. This only goes in here, this only goes in here, and we have 2 ground wires at the top. Very important, again, take note, we don't want to put ground wires where we have voltage because you'll get a dead short and you'll fry the board. So these 2 ground wires only go at the top. So again, I think, and these 2 tabs are always empty, always. Right on top of this multi-pin connector, this tab and this tab, forever, we've never used these. This tab is always empty, this tab is always empty. We start our wires the 3rd tab up, and then we go from there, but these wires also have to be in the correct position. If these wires are in the wrong position going back on the board, either it won't start up, it won't heat, you won't get the pump. There's numerous things can happen. You might have a short. It doesn't mean that you ruined a brand new board, you just got it wired wrong. So instead of me sending you a wiring diagram, we're just gonna, I've already gone over the wires, and this is the way the wires go. And color scheme wise, even machines that are fairly older, color scheme wise, we should be about the same. So we have 2 white wires, which we don't want this to trip you up. So here's a white wire, here's a white wire, but your top white wire is always going to be your power cord white. So your power cord white, this is your power cord incoming from the machine. Power cord white always goes to the top. The other white wire is 4 down, and it's going to the thermo. So now once we have everything connected again, we're going to slide it back into the bracket. So we have grooves. There's a groove that goes up and along this bracket. So we start it at the bottom, and you can manhandle the bracket if you need to, and then just slide your new board back in place. And if you want to zip tie it in place, there's a hole. We only need one. There's a hole in the top of the board, so you can send a zip tie through that hole and then zip tie it to the top of the bracket, and then you won't get any movement on the computer board coming out this way. Generally, the bracket's enough. That hole was there because we used to mount that to the tab on an inside water tank on the old 100 machines. So that manufacturing has never changed, and that's what they do with the zip tie. Is they send the zip tie through here, and they clamp it to the top of the L bracket, and then before you put your body back together, make sure that all your wires are tucked in, because we don't want to pinch any wires. So these wires can get folded and just stay out of the way of the body going back in place. And make sure, because we have a screw going through here, you just want to make sure that we're not going to pinch any wires on the way in, and we have plenty of clearance when we put our body back and we line our pump up, and the body can go back in place. But when I do a computer board, I always take the body this way too, because it gives you much better access. If the body was this way and you were trying to come in from the top, it'd be almost impossible to disconnect the wires to see what you're doing, to get them connected correctly. It's much easier just to drop the body, as I showed in the other video. And that's a PCB or computer board replacement.